Welcome to Stars Podcast, your growth mindset mecca. We are all about self-leadership principles here at Stars Podcast. Our guests come from all over the world with very unique stories of how they hacked their way into success. As you'll quickly find out, nothing happens overnight. And as always, enjoy the journey. Hey, what's up everybody? For all you long-time listeners, welcome back. For you first-time listeners, welcome to the fam. Today we have a special guest coming to us. His name is Brigham Nielsen. He's a performance mindset coach. He's a VEEFriends holder of Macro Micro. He's also into sport event management, most notably in the CrossFit world. And we also share a birthday. Please join me in welcoming Brigham Nielsen to the Stars Podcast family. And I also want to put in here, I do apologize for the audio quality. I had my microphone not correct. So please enjoy anyhow. Thank you guys always. Enjoy the journey.
Ron, how you doing?
Good. What's up, Brigham? What's new?
I'm just glad that my wife this morning said, "What's your podcast about again?" I said, "Well, let me pull up the text message and I'll tell you." And then I saw your message about time, and so started me back. And if not, I probably wouldn't have looked at it for another hour. So
yeah.
But yeah, just a good Sunday here. Nice slow Sunday. How about yourself?
Yeah, just getting things rocking and rolling, and yeah, things are good.
Awesome. What project were you working on?
So earlier I was working on a POAP tutorial for NF Daddy's Academy.
Okay. How was that?
It's actually like, I was surprised it was really simple. And then I was sitting there thinking like, is this too simple? Because it was like under a minute. I'm like, I think it's good. I think it's good.
So you just learned how to create a POAP and you said you're doing it for NF Daddies. Is that? Yeah. So actually what I was doing was just showing people how to download the app and then mint a POAP. Got it. So is your background before NFTs or Web3? Do you have background in technology? What's your background, Ron? Yeah, my background is I'm a sales guy. Okay.
And I sell high voltage electrical equipment to utilities in New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and Michigan. So I have like zero background in the tech world. However, like I grew up on computers. I grew up gaming. I grew up kind of doing all the stuff that I'm doing now. I recently got into editing videos because of this podcast is really why I got into it. And what even spurred me into creating videos was my daughter. She does martial arts, and inside of what they do there, like, you know, that there's like a belt progression and the black belt ceremony. This one girl, she would like make these really touching videos for all the kids getting their black belt, and she would edit them all together and put some music on it. And I was like, man, like every time she did these things, it like hit me. It brought tears to my eyes. I'm like, holy crap, this is so amazing. You know, I said, I want to do stuff like this. So I got the itch and just started like editing videos and adding music and starting to do all the, the lighting and all this other stuff. And it's become something that I almost like a some people will go and draw, or some people will paint. I like doing this.
Right. And in a sense, you're like creating your own belt system, it sounds like.
Yeah, for definitely. I always talk about white belt mentality, and what I teach is very white belt-esque. Just basic stuff, because I don't want to give anybody information that either A, I've not done, or B, I'm not totally sure about.
That's awesome. So yeah, man, I am super appreciative of you having me on. And I think it's awesome that you're doing what you're doing, because you're inspiring me just by doing it. Right. I wanted to start a podcast here for a little bit. Hopefully starting one this next week with a buddy of mine. And that's the plan. And then just overall, I don't have a background in this tech stuff either. Just a born and bred sports kid that, just always into sports and basically hard work. So the tech stuff is difficult for me sometimes to get on board with, because it's even breaking down a stigmatism from when I was in high school of not liking those things or not having the ability to do those things because, you know, I wasn't putting the time into it.
Right. And that just goes back to what your kind of ethos is, because I know that you have a CrossFit background and you're a director of CrossFit. You have like a lot going on in terms of new stuff that you've done, and it's just all about putting in the time and putting in the reps to cut your chops on it, you know. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good, I guess, segue too, is you know, CrossFit for me, I got introduced to it playing college football. A new coach came in and he started using it to weed everybody out. And so my first introduction to CrossFit, for those that are familiar with it, it was like Fran with 90 guys trying to make the college football team. And Fran, and for those that don't know, is 21 reps of pull-ups and thrusters, and then 15 reps of pull-ups and thrusters, and then 9 reps of pull-ups and thrusters as fast as you can. And you know, 90 competitive guys, you know, you're all trying to beat each other. And so it wasn't fun in regards to the way it felt. People were lying on the floor, throwing up afterwards. That was my introduction to CrossFit. And that was back in 2007. So, you know, now 13 years later, it's much different now. I think the best thing about CrossFit is people are just trying to educate others about the benefits of moving well and moving often every day, and then, you know, trying to change their lives through even a mental state, right? So that's what I like about the NFT community. That's what I like about getting on Twitter in the morning, is everyone saying good morning to everyone and being positive, and that's that same atmosphere in CrossFit. And so I started coaching, doing CrossFit, and then I started running a gym here in Cedar City, Utah, where I currently reside. And then I started working for the Utah Summer Games, which is a nonprofit organization. We are the state games of Utah, and we run about 48 different events, and it could be anything from archery, shooting, to team high school basketball, youth soccer, baseball, 5K, 10K. And then we started a CrossFit or functional fitness event called the Iron Games 3 years ago. We're going to be going into our 4th year this year. And so what's been really cool about that, Ron, I assume you follow Gary Vee.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so he's had those talks, right, where he talks about being self-aware, and, you know, is someone who's been trying to be an Olympic skier aware that they love skiing enough that they might never be an Olympic skier, but they could be an amazing, you know, instructor, right? And so that's kind of been my progression in the sport, you know, getting really involved athletically and trying to compete and, you know, do it as a full-time thing. And then, you know, okay, I'm not there. And then also realize it doesn't work for me in my lifestyle with my wife, and in some way, shape or form. But what can I still do? How can I still contribute to the community? How can I still be involved? And starting this event has been a great blessing, something I didn't see coming at all. So what's been your progression through what you've been doing, Ron?
Yeah, my progression from an activity standpoint, or from like the NFT standpoint?
From the NFT standpoint.
Yeah, so NFTs, I've been in it for about a year at this point, and my progression has been, it all started with my curiosity about what are we actually mining when we're crypto mining. Yeah. And nobody could really give me a solid answer. Like anybody that I asked that I knew was involved in cryptocurrency, or was trading crypto, or, you know, dabbling in shit coins or whatever, I was just like, what are you mining? What are you doing?
Right.
And nobody could give me a good answer. So I went down the rabbit hole and I said, okay, well, I'm going to figure out what it is. And I went and I figured it out. And it's whenever you go down that rabbit hole and you figure it out and you realize that really all that it is, the coins themselves are a reward system for a protocol inside of your computer that's running a program. So if you were talking about, if you wanted to equate it, I like to equate things to parallels, like things that we normally transact with. Right. So everybody knows how to use Facebook or Microsoft Word or things like that. So if you think of a cryptocurrency running your, let's say, your email, every time that you transact an email, a coin gets taken. Well,
Yeah.
if 1,000 people, only 1,000 people have the coins to run that program, they have to continuously put coins in, right? So
Yeah.
there's a level of scarcity at that point, because if everybody holds their coins, well, now if anybody wants to do emails, it's going to be very expensive, because you're going to have to pay top dollar for that coin for somebody to allow you to use your email.
Yeah.
Well, if there's a bunch of coins, then it becomes less expensive to run your emails. And now there's an abundance of those tokens. So that's how I was understanding it. It was like, okay, every time that they run a transaction on the blockchain, it costs coins.
It's like it's a game.
It's a game. So every time a transaction goes through, the computer, whichever one guesses the right number, ends up getting a reward. And then that reward are these coins. And I was like, okay, well, I get that. That's pretty simple.
Okay.
And from there, it went on to, okay, well, what the hell do I buy with these coins? What am I going to do with these coins? And then you start to understand, okay, the crypto is only as good as the program that it runs. And then the program that it runs is only as good as the user interface that it has and the functionality behind it. So then I started looking at these white paper studies and looking at all the companies that are investing in certain areas, and you start seeing a lot of the same names. And that's what drew me into going into NFTs, is looking at those white papers and then hearing Gary Vaynerchuk and Mark Cuban and Kevin Rose talking about the future of Web3. And I'm like, all right, well, these guys called Web2. I may as well, and I wasn't financially able to get in then. Now I'm in a situation where I could get in now and, maybe figure this out and establish something for myself and my family. And that's what we ended up doing. I got into VEEFriends. That was my first, that was my first NFT. But before that, like, I was listening to Clubhouse rooms with Steve Aoki and Farouk and all those guys that were early.
Mm-hmm.
I say early, like, because it was March 2021, but you know what I mean?
Right.
So now I'm like, okay, well, now there's artists that I know from outside of this space.
Name recognition
Coming into this space and understanding like what they were doing. So that was sort of my progression, was, what is crypto? What do I buy with it? Okay, now I know what to buy with it. Now I'm buying things with it.
Yeah.
So that was my progression. I mean, how about yourself?
So first, I think what you just explained was very well done. I have never actually understood what the mining was. Just they mine it, they build it, and it costs something to build it, and that's what they just call it. So the way you just explained that is awesome. Thank you. So learned something there. My progression was, I guess a few years back, started seeing some of Gary's stuff. Motivational guy, and we can get back into that because of that background. So started seeing Gary's stuff, and originally it was like fuck Monday, Mondays are the best. And
the rebranding of negativity.
Right. Mondays are the best. We should love Mondays. And so that helped me get bought in right away. Love what you do, wake up, because I have been fortunate to really love what I do, even though I've done a lot of different things. And so then that went from, I knew about crypto. My brother had gotten into crypto early, lost a ton of money. I didn't know this until recently, lost a ton of money, which was also during the time he was, pretty depressed and just that anxiety of the up and down back in, I think, 2017, 2018. And so I just wasn't ever interested in getting into crypto. Wasn't saying maybe yet. Then Gary started talking about NFTs, and the NFT I really understood well because of the utility that he would talk about putting behind it. Mm-hmm. I really valued that. I've also always believed that because when I taught my kids in high school, I tried to get them to buy in by saying, hey, I know you guys like your computers. I know you like all this digital stuff, and the world is going to continue to get more and more digital. So these are good things. But because the world will get more and more digital, human interaction will become more and more rare and more valued. And so you want to learn and practice how to treat people, how to represent yourself, how to build relationships. And that really made sense to me with what Gary was doing with VCon. Am I the kind of person that would buy a ticket to VCon? Yes, check mark. I would do that. I would go to a conference like that and network, and that's how I thrive, actually. So now I have the opportunity to just learn this new technology, to try to taste it as a bonus on top of me getting this ticket that I would just get. So it was money I was willing to risk and willing to lose, and saw the opportunity to learn something new. And I'm only 33, but so it's not like I really missed the opportunity of like Amazon and things like that. I guess I look at it like I just wasn't at the age where I was getting into money yet, right? But I saw and have learned from other people, my older siblings, about the regret. And I was like, I'm not going to regret this. Like, this makes sense to me. People do collect things. I've never collected cards. I've never collected those kinds of things, but I do believe in people using collections and items as to show status. Like, this makes perfect sense to me. And so got involved in VEEFriends. Luckily for me, he had to push back the date. Like, I had gotten my money in the weekend, the Friday right before I had made the transfer. So it wasn't going to show, until Monday and Tuesday. And I hadn't told my wife about it. So I had tried to talk to her about NFTs and about all this stuff. And every time it was just an argument, and because she didn't understand it and I wasn't explaining it very well.
Right.
So I don't think I told her about buying it until August. July. It would have been July.
Oh my.
Yeah, it would have been July. So just the ups and downs of doing something I'd never done before. I wasn't talking to anyone about it. I wasn't really on Twitter too much other than just watching. And my Instagram, I didn't know people talking about NFTs. So just keeping that inside me this year, and for that amount of time, and just hoping I wasn't crazy and hoping I wouldn't lose my money and get stolen or hijacked. And it was up and down, high in stress.
Yeah, for sure it would have been. And then especially, kind of keeping a secret with all that. Now, so which one did you get? Did you get it at floor? Did you pop it before floor?
So, I got a core. I got one of 20 cores, a macro micro, which I got that because for me that, the macro patience and the micro speed just overall is a philosophy I really gel with and vibe with, and I believe in it 100%. I have things to work on within it, so it's challenging. Mm-hmm. There's a part of me that wishes I would have gotten an animal just because of the IP value of that, but it is what it is. But I remember, so the drop in my time was at 4 p.m. and I remember watching it start at 1.5, about 1.5, and I just looked at how much it dropped in 4 hours, and then I was able to it's dropped, I think 0.25 in 4 hours. So, if I wake up at this time, here's where I might be able to get it. And so I ended up waking up at 4 o'clock the next morning and got it for 0.77.
Okay.
And yeah, so OG, I'm going to keep that for forever, right? Like, never going to give it up. So now I'm really excited for V2 and hoping to get a couple so I can, kind of quick sell some real. I haven't done that. I haven't sold any NFTs, that I've bought. And so I'm hoping that this will be, I'll be able to taste that experience through this. And yeah, just that I'm super excited about it. Are you looking at V2 for sure?
What's that?
Are you looking to get in it on V2 for sure?
Oh yeah, definitely. We already have the money set aside at this point to make that happen. So let me backtrack just a little bit, because I've been thinking about a complete NFT gym of sorts.
Mhm.
And the way that I was thinking of it, so all of my workout badges that I have could be NFTs. Like every single one of those, like, because I'm on what is it, Garmin Connect, and every
Okay.
time, and I'm also on Peloton, so like I get badges throughout that. So I'm thinking to
Okay.
myself, like, okay, if I'm thinking like a belt system, I'm thinking badges, I'm thinking constant progression. And if you introduce, it doesn't have to be like totally NFT related,
Yeah.
but I think it lends itself to the gamification of working out. And I
That's
think that
very true.
whoever ends up doing that is gonna really set the bar for gyms moving forward.
Like,
I really
and
do.
maybe
I
as
think
a
it's
community builder, that's, yeah.
massive.
Yep.
So we started this thing, it's called NFT Athletic Community. I don't know if you're involved in it yet, with
I,
Angelo Santino or
yeah, I
Santino.
just started following a little bit. Luna.
Yeah, Luna. Oh,
Yeah,
of course,
Luna. So
Luna.
I started seeing what she was doing. So that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. We're also involved in the Peloton group as well, and we're starting a little thread inside of that, inside of Angelo's Discord. But I'm just sitting here thinking, and I see all these badges I keep getting. I said, dude, I would love to have that in my wallet. Like have all of that stuff in your wallet, because just like you were talking about, most of what we're seeing is status symbol. Like the
Yeah.
Bored Ape Yacht Club is the new skinny jean. It's what it is. The crypto punks are the new Rolls Royce.
Yep.
I really feel that way. And and you said something really interesting, was human interaction is becoming more rare.
Yeah.
And that to me, that hit me like right square in the chest, because it's so true.
It's great. It's great that we're connecting online. Like, this is fantastic. Would not have the ability to do this so long ago, right? But all of this is going to make, going to VCon that much more valuable.
Yes.
And we're going to be able to put faces and names and all that. I mean, that's why NFT NYC was so big, right? I don't know if you went to that. I did
Yeah, I
not.
did.
But that's so valuable, because you've been interacting with these people for so long, and then you want to meet your family every year. So, and that's one reason why I love the CrossFit community, because they have these festivals that are, they're going to be one time every year. We're going to go to Wadapalooza, it's called, in Miami in January. And we're going to see a lot of people that we see, one time a year at this event. And you follow them along in social media in between, and you cheer them on, right? You kill people with kindness, and instead of getting on there scrolling and just commenting rude things for no reason. So yeah, it's exciting for sure to see how I think these things will gel and play together. And it's exciting to be around people that are excited and positive about it too, right? I was just with my parents this weekend and started explaining to them NFTs with Thanksgiving. And my mom says, I'm so glad I'm going to be dead in 20 years. She doesn't feel like she has to learn it. So, and I get it. I get it from her perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a super
But
exciting time.
that's the other part of it too. So in the utility industry, I work with tons of old heads. Like, they just don't want to learn new stuff. They're stuck in their ways. They went through the whole evaluation process, and they don't want to change something. So like, I've been dealing with that for the last 10 years of my life, and being able to navigate those waters is really interesting. And that's why I speak in parallels all the time, because when we're able to connect it to something that they're already accustomed to seeing and buying and using, that's where I think you get a better buy-in than trying to give them something totally abstract. Because I talk a lot about, like, whenever you have interactions with people, it's almost like dating. Whenever you,
Yeah, we're dating.
yeah,
If
when you
I say
go,
it to my clients, I say it to my one-on-one clients. Hey,
do you?
3 months, like, we're dating. I've got to figure out in the 3 months, I need at least to understand, because not everybody gets stronger or better or fast, in the same way. Some people need more reps. Some people need less reps. They need more volume, more intensity, less intensity. So, hey, we're dating for 3 months. And at 3 months, let's talk about where the relationship's at and where we're going to go.
That's fantastic. I'm like, that gave me goosebumps that you say the exact same thing, because
well, and I just kind of cut you off, so I apologize. So
no,
go
you're
ahead.
totally good. Totally good. I love it, because that's the part to me that I think that people try and go after the home run, like right out of the gate. And I'm like, we haven't even had hors d'oeuvres yet.
Right.
Like, come on, you got to establish a baseline. You got to establish some trust. You can't just, come at people.
Well, and here's what's really interesting. The barriers that we are going to have to break down, or people are going to have to break down. My sister has twin boys. They are like 8, I think. They love Minecraft. That's been a part of my progression in the last year of buying into this, watching them. What are they doing? What are they spending their time doing? Okay, Minecraft, playing with kids that they don't know, or playing through, oh, that's my friend's friend, right? Even my wife getting on this podcast today. Well, have you ever met this guy? What's he about? My sister, though, going back to the kids with Minecraft, just super concerned about the tracking aspect, pedophilia, all that stuff, which is real. Mm-hmm. But also, like, how are we going to be able to raise our children in that world where they know what's safe and what's not in those spaces, right? And they know that there is value to meeting and these technologies that can allow us to just interact with the whole world. How do we not scare them or scare ourselves, with those bad things that can happen? And so, again, that human interaction, even the ability to see face to face like this right now is going to be huge.
Well, and the part to me also is, I like to talk about meet them where they're at. You got to meet people where they're at. And if the kids are online, we need to go online, and we need to figure it out too, and see, because, like, yes, the pedophilia and all of that stuff is like, it's there, but if you're involved in the community, it's like few and far between. It's not like around every single corner there's somebody there. It's like, for the most part, it's like, it's pretty safe. And to teach them, this is why, like, I watch YouTube videos with my daughter and my son. This is why I played Minecraft online with them. I've done the Roblox online with them, because I said, when you're interacting online, it's just like you're interacting face to face. You got to still maintain that same type of composure, and not be the like the big badass behind the keyboard. It's like, if you're not going to say the things that you're saying now on Zoom or wherever, you wouldn't say that directly to their face where they could grab you and like punch your lights out. Yeah, and you shouldn't say it.
You probably shouldn't say it.
You should talk the exact same way that you would talk to them in person, because that is going to be the way that like you can establish a pretty good relationship with these people. And I think like being there with them and navigating the waters with them is just like we would do, just like our parents did with us when we went to the grocery store or to the restaurant. Like, you don't put your feet up on the table at the restaurant. So like, we're not going to do that, or we don't do that at home. So you're not going to do it at the restaurant. You know what I mean?
Right. And going back to what you originally said on like the not throwing up on people and taking those steps to build a relationship. And that's what, I just saw that from my sister, like this fear that, of her kids being on Minecraft and the dangers of all that. And that's a great idea. Like, hey, get in there and kind of play with them a little bit, like know their world that way.
Absolutely.
I'm going to talk to her because a lot of times it's like they use that as a reward system, right? Or it also becomes the like, hey, you've been playing that too much. And then they're seeing bad behavior from it. So, you can mix that up by getting in there and playing with them, yourself, right?
Have them teach you. They will literally teach you what you need to know.
Right. So, I just think, I just like what you said in regards to overall, we've got to be in it for the long haul, right? And know that we have to build context and create relationships and preach like good stuff, right? And that's why I think what Gary's doing is pretty cool. And I need to learn from him and do more. I guess I've been learning, but I need to do more like how he's getting on TikTok and, you know, getting those young kids to start thinking about kindness and empathy and all those things early on is super important. And so I've got to do some things with that too, because I've been working with kids, you know, here in town. I coach some high school football teams, and I don't have as much interaction with them now because of lifestyle changes and job changes, but I could interact with them more. Like, where are they at? Where's the attention at? So
yeah. And that's the other part too, that I've actually struggled with a little bit, because I also do a lot in the martial arts community, with Krav Maga, with jujitsu and tournaments and classes and teaching the kids, that I get caught up in, oh, I should be doing more online. I should be doing more Twitter. I should be doing more TikTok, when like maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just dive in on the things that I've been doing, just do it in a way that dovetails back into NFTs and crypto. Because whenever I start going more on the online side, well, the in real life side goes down. So there's like an ebb and flow to it, because what got us into the situation that we're in now, that we can even have the flexibility to be online, is the shit that we've been doing in real life.
yeah,
You know, so that's the part to me that I struggle with. You know, I still struggle with, because dedicating the time in the right spots. And that's why, like, I've been on a huge kick about scheduling your time. No, even if it's free time, schedule it.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. I've been out of the habit, but I used to be better at sitting down every Sunday around this time and like scheduling out the week. And that was when I did have a lot of free time. And so that's part of the reason I guess I haven't been doing it as much. But it is super valuable to do that. And one of the things I've really enjoyed doing is I'll write down, like on whiteboard or on my paper, whatever, right? Like the different areas or sections of my life. NFTs. So Iron Games, that would be the CrossFit competition, but then summer games, me working for the summer games, the other events, because they're just two separate beasts to me. You know, and then my own personal business, you know, my wife, dogs, whatever. And so I'll write down the things under those lists that I want to do or accomplish. And then instead of it being a to-do list, it becomes, I'm crossing these things off as I schedule them. Right. And then I can also see where I'm like allotting my time, you know, and there's different seasons. You know, during the summer, it's a lot more work for me, because that's when we're running most of our events. So right now I'm doing a lot more of learning and interacting with family. And so, so tell me a little bit about what you text me on, wanting to help troubled youth, basically, you know, and educate people on those kinds of things. So tell me where that passion comes from. What are you hoping to, what's your experience? What are you hoping to accomplish? And
oh yeah, totally. So
value.
My experience inside of that realm, I mean, that goes clear back to my childhood. I mean, I was one of those kids, and I always say that the only reason why I didn't end up in trouble or in a group home was maybe just a handful of people in my life, coaches in particular, that took me under their wing and allowed me an opportunity to get into sports and get into baseball and get into hockey and be able to have those types of interactions and community, really is what it ended up being, because I didn't have that quite at home, just for parents divorced, and the story goes on. So like from there, I went into college. I went to junior college and I was playing baseball, and I got into behavioral science classes, and I could not believe, I was like, these people are writing books about me. Like, how is this possible? They're writing about me. And it was like all of these things that I had been to, and trauma response and all of it. So I'm like, okay, there's some work that needs to be done there. But I think that I understand it enough that maybe I could help other people. So what I ended up doing was going into I started working at a group home for at-risk teenagers. You know, they actually had kids that were from 8 years old to 18 years old. And I worked my way up into actually running one of those houses, and then running two of those houses. I ran a male sexual offender unit. Yep. And then I also ran a I don't want to say it was like but they weren't like super troubled. They were in there because they didn't have anywhere else to go. They were like foster kids, or like they violated probation, but there wasn't like, it was more like drug use and just being truant and those types of things. So we kind of caught them before they got into a real bad situation. Anyhow, long story short, just getting involved with those kids and being able to be a part of their lives, just like people were a part of my life growing up, and giving them, just being able to, similar to why you like going on Twitter, to have somebody say good morning to you,
right,
is a powerful, powerful situation if you've not had that before. If you've not been able to have breakfast every single day, you know?
It is. And so I love that background. I can really relate to that. So I taught high school for 8 years, and was a great experience. Taught 2 different high schools. And at my first high school, Parowan High School, we were doing a skills class or a learning strategies class. It became basically a class for them to work on their other homework that they had.
Mm-hmm.
At this school, Parowan, a small community, about 5,000 people. That was pretty much all it needed to be. Went to Cedar High School. Now we're 30,000 people in Cedar City, where I live. And there's a lot more kids. And now this became, the learning strategies class became the class for those that did not have extra resources. They weren't sped. They weren't getting help from any other entities. You know, maybe they're getting free breakfast or free lunches, right? But they don't have support at home. And so those kids started coming into my class. And what I started seeing, right, was the standard was just no support at home and a bad relationship with school and with teachers. Like, why would I want to be here in the first place? Like, just even what Gary talks about, like, I just get in trouble. I have bad grades. Like, you know,
why do I keep putting myself?
I have these expectations. I have these expectations that are being placed on me that I don't care to meet. I don't plan to meet. I don't want to meet. So I ran through a brick wall, checked all the boxes in my experience of going through high school and going through college. You know, coach, tell me how high to jump. I'll do my best to get there. I'm probably not going to get that high, but I'll keep working hard, you know, every day to get there. So yeah, I started seeing in these kids that they're not going to just do these box check things that I'm asking them to do to become a better person. And it really started, these were kids that the next step was them going to the home that you were at, you know, okay, you're not going to go here. We're going to send you here. You're going to be, you know, under supervision from 8 to 5, or you're there all the time, 24/7, and you're going to be on online school. And then we're going to just try and teach you skills to basically not end up in jail for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So that's where I really started getting into the performance coaching, performance mindset. These kids aren't, you know, just doing things because I tell them to. So how do I get them to understand what's their why, or what's their motivation, or how, you know, and sometimes it's just, how can you keep people off your back? Like, hey guys, like, I don't want to be on your back. Like,
yes.
Let me give you some tips on like maybe how you can keep people off your back.
Yep.
You know? I understand you don't want to be here, but like, we got to check some boxes, and it's for your benefit for people to just leave you alone if you want them to leave you alone. But now was a lot of conversations of just getting to know kids. And there's a disconnect with these group. And this group was it became about 10% of the school, right? Because by the end we started with like 60 kids in the program. And by the end of my being there and getting out of teaching, there was over 200, which was about 10% of the school. So, and it was good. And it was pros and cons, right? So there's a higher number of kids in the class because we're actually getting things done. I'm getting seniors to graduate who were 14 credits behind from everything that they failed. And I mean, we're not just trying to, you know, again, check the box and pass them through. And for some though, that's all they need it to be. They just need that diploma. They need to get out, and like, they need to go and do what they've been wanting to do in the first place, you know, in terms of living in another world, not in the school system. And so that was really rewarding to see, you know, those seniors who previously they felt like had given up on them. they got into my class and it was, hey, even in the third quarter, they thought they wouldn't make it and they still made it and were able to graduate. So that was really rewarding. I kind of got tired of some of the loopholes. I saw myself starting to become a little bit negative about the things I couldn't control. While I still loved teaching and would go back in an instant, that's what's kind of cool is like, I would go back in an instant if I got fired or whatever. But it also helped me just see that, hey, I want to help people, but I want to just do it with less tape to get through. And that's been really impactful on me to have had that experience, though, to get to know kids, to listen to them, to understand that they're growing up in a completely different world, right? Things like, why am I taking my hat off in class? Like, that makes no sense to me, right? Like, they're growing up in an era where that respect, that doesn't mean anything. And so I feel, I guess, blessed to see both sides and with a lot of social norms, and it's important to, recognize those, I guess, sometimes or like acknowledge.
I think it's really important.
It's changing.
Yeah. Well, not only is it just the changing part of it, I want to back up a little bit too, because you nailed something right on the head. And it was about the seniors that were so far behind. I think oftentimes we all feel this way, where we get to a point where we're so far behind the 8 ball, we get overwhelmed at the big picture that we're like, I don't even want to touch that because it looks too big and too audacious. And you're going into those conversations and assisting them in breaking it down into smaller, digestible goals that they can actually accomplish, and give them something not 14 months away, but is maybe 14 seconds away that they can do right now to get to 14 months away. Right.
Yeah. And whatever those things are for people now, like, how old are you, Ron?
35.
So, I mean, you don't need to spend 10 minutes doing math every day, or 30 minutes doing math every day, but there's, hey, are you going to write in your journal? Are you going to research NFTs for 10 minutes? Are you going to check your bank account every day? What are those daily habitual habits, routines?
Oh my God, I just wrote about this in Medium last night.
Nice.
I wrote about creating morning habits, because I've been doing this thing. It's called I Am, I Can, I Will.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be a book at some point, but that's what, just a morning routine, getting up, brushing your teeth. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, and dude was like, I don't brush my teeth in the morning. He oil pulls, but I was like, you still do hygiene. You still have a routine. So get off me.
Right.
Yeah, I interrupted you, but that's something that I think that, and this was what we did at the group home all the time. And this is, it's structure. If you can structure your life, you're in control of it then.
Yeah. So, and it's like being the CEO of your own life, or the CEO of your own mindset, right? Why do we value, or we look at being the boss of something, or having this responsibility to take control of certain things within our work structures, but do we take that same control in our own mind? So you have a baseball background and a wrestling background. I'm curious, have you ever heard of Justin Sua?
No.
So a good morning routine, right, while you're brushing your teeth, is listen to the Increase Your Impact podcast.
Okay.
By Justin Sua. He is the mental performance coach for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Okay.
2 to 3 minutes. He does it Monday through Friday. And that was one of that and the 5-minute, gratitude journal. Those were the first two things that for me got me into these daily morning routines, or just routines in general, and that overall performance. And, you're listening to it while you're brushing your teeth. It's no added time. You're listening to it while you drive to the gym or drive to,
Yeah.
So
when you're doing gratitude journaling, do you often repeat?
Yeah. So yeah, I do. And I don't know if you're asking because you struggle with that. I know
I repeat all the time.
And I've run into a few people that bothers them. They don't like that. Like, oh, I just found that I get too repetitive in my gratitude and don't take it seriously or really think about it. And so, well, I think it's better than nothing. But yeah, so I'll even say today. So today I wrote, gratitude was Ron Jordan for having me on his podcast. Others, pushing kindness, follow at Chris Universe on Twitter. I don't know if you do. Him and there's tons of people though, right? But when I woke up today and got on Twitter, he was pushing some kindness, so I appreciated that. I wrote down my coffee. I wrote down people being flexible and understanding. And in my head right there, I'm like, okay, I appreciate Ron being flexible, on the time. And I also appreciate him being understanding, where we were talking in the right language. And then as the language changed, we weren't talking in the right language. Right. And then even the accountability, what I appreciated was whether you really felt like it was your fault or not, you took accountability, and then it's on me to take accountability as well. Right. And it's like, I could have clarified, right? I could have said, hey, are we talking about?
Dude, I love that we both tried to own it too. I don't know if you're a Jocko fan, but I do. I'm like, extreme ownership changed my life.
Cool. I haven't read the book. I mean, I'm not like all into him, like I am like Gary, but love Jocko. That's great.
Yeah. I have Extreme Leadership, The Dichotomy of Leadership. I got it sitting right there. And then there's another book that I like. It's called The War of Art. It's another one that I get into. There's 4 that I have, or actually 5 that I have sitting here. The other one's Flow, and the other one's Neil deGrasse Tyson, Astrophysics for busy people. But yeah. So I often wonder that about the gratitude journaling, because I constantly am repeating myself, and I've gotten over it. But before, I was like, oh, I got to be creative. I got to come up with new stuff every day. And I just sort of got tired of it, because I didn't want to be so creative.
Right.
And because I was like grateful and I had gratitude for the same stuff every day. And I thought that ended up being just fine.
Right. And yeah, so sometimes I'm looking back on, back all the way into August, and it's like, yeah, a lot of times I've written down how grateful I am for my wife, Like, I was so bad about that.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway,
why can't she be on my list every time?
Every day, right?
Yeah. What did you feel like during whenever you were in those classes with those kids? Where did you find your ability to connect with them, and where was like those? And I'm sure that it's different for each one, and I'm sure that it's different for each one of your clients now in the performance style that you're in. But I'm sure that there's common themes inside of that.
Yep. So common themes, I guess, would be, I'm extremely grateful for what my parents taught me and how my parents raised me to treat people, right? So that's one. That's where it starts. Super blessed. The second thing would be, from that, I've always had to work really hard at meeting standards through sports, right? And my relationship and my consistency to build relationships and to work hard was always the factor there for me, because I'm not extremely athletic, 5 flat 40, like I'm not fast, just a 6'1" white kid, like with big feet, with 13 size feet. So yeah,
you always got shoes on sale though.
Right. And then so that would be kind of where that's coming from. So I've always been a role player on the basketball team. Hey, I'm going to come in for a few minutes. This is exactly what my job is. Here's what I'm going to provide. Played left tackle in football, and fullback and tight end. So different positions, but never scored a touchdown ever after Little League. Never scored a touchdown after Little League. Name's never been in the paper, so just doing all the work behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But in that, I believe that your job or my job is to leave people better than you found them. If someone is not better for having spent time with me, then I haven't done my job. I am definitely more interested in legacy than I am money. I am definitely more interested in how many people are going to show up at my funeral. I have said that. Before I ever knew about Gary, I remember having a conversation with the guy who owned the CrossFit gym that I was managing. And I remember I told him about the funeral idea, and the advice he gave me was correct at that time. But it was, hey, like, you should stop caring about what other people think that much. And, people showing up at your funeral, and just do you and be you. But again, that being said, then I found Gary and saw how he talked about that. I was like, no, this is a good thing that I feel this way.
Yes.
I still need to not care as much about pleasing other people. I still need to protect my time. That's the hardest thing, right? Is protecting my time when every interaction I have with someone is I want to provide as much value as possible. So, I don't want to upset you and say, hey, I got to get off my podcast, or I got to get off the podcast. Like, I'm going to give you as much, like whatever you want. Right. And I'm going to be late to the next meeting just because I'm not as good at saying protecting my time, because I just want to make sure that you're taken care of.
Yeah.
So with those kids, the common themes after that in interacting with them would just be listening and empathy. Right.
Yeah.
The less I spoke and told them what to do, the more I was able to listen to what was actually going on for them. And then building trust. Hey, can I help you? Can I give you any advice? Would you be willing? So
Asking for permission.
Permission. Like, I'm, and letting them know, like, hey, like, I don't care. What I really care about is you being happy and you getting the things that you want or need. So that's really where I came from, was like every interaction with them is like, hey, I'm trying to help you be the best you can be, whatever that is. I understand that school may or may not be important to you, or this class may or may not be important to you. You may not like this teacher, but here's what I feel or what I've seen other people do in your situation that will help them, to get to where they need to go. But I think the biggest thing, right, was building trust, and you're only really able to do that through consistency. Like, are you doing what you say you're going to do? Mm-hmm. Right. I lost trust with kids sometimes because maybe I was overworked, or just maybe I didn't follow through on what I said I would do. But when you followed through on what you said you would do, when you showed up to the meeting after school that was supposed to be with their parents that didn't show, when you listened to them, and this is a good example. I didn't have a dog growing up, so I never had a pet, really. So when a kid came late to my class, and it was because his dog was something about his dog, like, I don't care, don't be late to my class. That changed from, I did end up getting a dog in the last 5 years. And then also being able to understand that, man, his dog being lost, this has really happened. My dog was lost last night, and so he came in later, didn't come into class, and missed a bunch of class. And now I get it. I understand. Right. And my judging him for being late to my class or not showing up in that moment is way less valuable than me having empathy, listening, building trust with him, because what has already happened has happened, right? He's missed class, he's late, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. But how do we move forward, right, to catch up or do better or not let it happen again? Yeah. What about you? How did you interact with kids? How were you able to help them?
Yeah, and it was always listening, because every time that you tried to say something or tell them, this is how I would, this is what you should, this is, that's when they would shut you off. Just be there. I would realize that just being there, holding a space that's safe for them to say whatever they want to without judgment, that was the secret sauce. I can't even begin to explain to you how many kids would come into my office with their little bowl of cereal to sit down and chit chat on Saturday, Sunday mornings, whenever I would work the weekends. Because I think I also gained respect because I did shit that other people didn't want to do. Like, I would always just volunteer, because I, just like you saying that you wanted to give as much and you'd be late to the next thing. At that point in my life, I wanted to give as much as I could and pour as much as I could into that career and those kids, because that's where I thought that my thing was. And whenever I started to see kids go from total knuckleheads to actually going through their And it's not because I thought it was right. Like their plans that they had to get back home, I didn't agree with most of them. Like I didn't agree with most of the checklist. And
Right.
and the kids knew that. The kids knew my feeling on it. But I said, listen, just like you said, like we gotta do this. Like if your ultimate goal is to go back home, then we got to do these things. If you don't want to go back home, then we don't have to do these things.
Right.
It is simply that or the other. And I think that when I came at them just being real and letting them know where I stood on things, but also not going against what the rules were, but finding the gray area that we could play in was the ticket.
I like it. I like it. And I'm sure you have a specific example. One thing it reminds me of is, so I taught from 2012 to 2012 to 2018, and so phones. So phone use in the classroom, huge no for some, huge no for some teachers, and then some of them are using it really well, right? Or now everybody's getting Chromebooks, and they're using those. In my classroom, like I probably had the strictest policy for phones, and I say that in of like actually doing something about it. And here's why it was strict, was because I had already told them, I said, if you really need to, I don't care if you're on your phone, if you've done all your stuff. If you're done, like I could care less. Or if you have something going on that like requires you to use your phone, I will gladly allow you to do it if you will come and talk and communicate to me, right? Like advocate for yourself.
Yes.
Tell me what, like,
Love that.
you don't have to spill the beans, right? But advocate for yourself. Hey, I know we're not supposed to have our phones in class, but like I'm waiting to hear back on this from my parents. This is going on. Okay. So, I had a strict policy in that if I saw their phone out the first time, I was taking it till the end of class. The second time was I'm keeping it till the end of the day. And then the third time was your parent's going to have to come in and get it. And I probably in those years of teaching only had one or two parents ever have to come and get it. But that was just because I was consistent and accountable on the first two steps. Right. And also built trust and said what I said, followed through on what I said I would do. And that, hey, if you need to use your phone, like, again, tell me about it. Communicate with me. I'd be glad to let you use your phone.
I love the self-advocacy. I try and tell that to my daughter all the time, and I give opportunities for her to do it. Because growing up, I was given the opportunity to self-advocate all the time. And I think it was more or less because my mom just sort of didn't want to have to deal with me being grounded. So I would advocate for myself, like, hey, I should be ungrounded because I did XYZ type of thing. So like in terms of my daughter, it's a little bit different, but I still want her to be able to self-advocate for herself. Even if I don't agree with what she's saying, like I'll just give in sometimes just because she should win some of those battles in her life to be able to do things like that. And I like that you're giving them an opportunity to do that and teach them that you don't have to be sneaky all the time. Sometimes there's enough of a relationship between you and whoever the authority figure is that you can communicate and go in that gray area where the rules are and live there, because there are circumstances that require you to go in a different way. The other part that you brought up too was being a role player, that you brought up during your sports career. And I thought that was an interesting situation or even comment to say, was being a role player is important. It's like being part of the team. You don't always have to be the person who's on the highlight reel, because there's a lot of role players that make it possible.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at winning teams, right? Just, I don't know of an NFL team that's, been very successful without a great offensive line or a great defensive front, in some way, shape, or form. There's always different recipes to success. Every team seems to have a Dennis Rodman or a Scottie Pippen or a Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
All of them play their roles. And so, yeah, growing up on that through sports, I think that's been a benefit to me. I think that it could be to anyone, but I've also learned through working with kids and just growing with more experience that there's a lot of other ways, you know, and a lot of value to other things other than sports. But
and it's almost why I feel like you got the macro micro, because
yeah,
you can look at it. So this is where I come from, and I think that we're similarly situated. Plus, we share a birthday, by the way.
are we May 3rd?
Yeah.
Did we talk about that before?
No, I just saw it on your Twitter. So
Okay.
it's weird that sometimes zodiacs are a thing for me. Sometimes I think they're a little bit crazy, but
Okay.
for this situation, I think it's a thing because
I didn't even know I'm a zodiac. Like I don't pay attention to that, right? Like I've been told.
Well, you're a
probably
Taurus.
4 or 5.
I'm just saying.
Oh, I'm a Taurus. Okay, I'm a Taurus.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
But there are just your mentality in terms of being able to look at things from you can detach yourself and look at it from a wide angle and look at, because you're curious. So you're looking at it in terms like from 1,000 different lenses. I call it like spider eyes. You're looking at it from a bunch of eyes and you're seeing different angles. And then in the micro, you can take all that, distill it down into something that the kid or the adult or whoever is going to find value in. And you know sort of what makes them tick and what their buttons are because you've listened to them.
You ask questions. You've asked enough questions beforehand. But I like what you said about spider eyes. That's really cool. I think that well, I sent this to a buddy of mine last night. This message.
I just made the spider eyes thing up.
I thought that was good. Because you know that, like you said, that's 8 different eyes that I'm looking through the lens, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a play on ponder it from all angles.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay, here it is. So I sent him we both really like music, so we're sending music to each other back and forth and kind of what it means to us. But I just said, all is good in the land. Life is a blessing. God and his people are good. There is so much good around us. All the bad that you may hear and wherever you may hear it, even if it's in your own head, use it to treat yourself and others better moving forward. Use it to connect. And so I think that that's just overall like what we should all be doing with each other, right? Is I'm listening and trying to hear from you. I'm trying to get out, you know, not be in my own head. I'm trying to learn about you. Even when we're on our own, though, when we are in our own heads, whatever it might be, how can we use that information to move forward and be better in interacting with ourselves and with others? And
isn't that the biggest part too? Is being able to interact with yourself with a little bit of self-love and some respect.
Yeah.
Because what I say to myself, I wouldn't say to you. I wouldn't say to my wife. It's so crazy what I say to myself. It's like, dude, you're like super mean to yourself. So being able to change the channel in that respect. But just like you were talking about, I got to be respectful of your time and my time. So I want this not to be the last time that you and I interact, but I do want our listeners to be able to follow you in your journey. So where can they find you at? And is there any last words that you'd like to get across to them?
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, Ron, appreciate the opportunity to be on here. So I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brigham Nielsen. Nielsen is Nielsen. So it's just my full name. And if anyone needs help solving problems, be it in their life or with fitness, with how they're trying to change their mindset to perform at a higher level, I'm more than happy to be of help. And sometimes that's a 5-minute conversation. And sometimes that's working with people one-on-one and interacting with them every single day, making workouts for them, having Zoom calls, even like this, where we're just talking through problems that they're having or questions that they're having, be it about goals that they've been setting or about their fitness journey, right? So so super happy to interact and help others and to be a resource that, you know, people can use to better their lives in any way, shape, or form. And I appreciate the opportunity to be on here, Ron, and
absolutely. I appreciate
interact with you. So let's make sure it's not the last time.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you who were curious as to how we met, it was on a Twitter Spaces event. and Brigham was talking about this, his self-leadership development and journey, and through mental health, and that's how we connected. And I'm so excited to watch where your journey ends up, as well as being a part of it.
Awesome. I appreciate it, and good luck with what's going on in the NFT athletic community, and then some of the other things that you got going. I didn't get to. It doesn't seem like we got deep into those, but
yeah. So just some of the things that I have going on within this podcast. Of course, the Stars podcast. We have the NFT project, which is NF Daddy's NFT, where our goal is to launch 100 NFT community projects, as well as onboard 1,000 new wallets. So we're doing an NFT Academy, which is, we actually have one coming up on December 5th, where we will do Zoom calls like this and have 25 seats available, and those fill up pretty quickly. So, and the event itself is called Blockchain Basics Workshop. And like I said, we go over very high level, what crypto is, again, what you're mining, opening your crypto wallet, NFTs, metaverse, just some of the basics. And now I've added POAP and Ledger Wallet to the curriculum.
Okay, cool. So you're trying to launch 1,000 NFTs, you said?
No, we've launched 2 projects so far. So NF Daddies was our cornerstone project. That was our Genesis project. And then we also have launched Asteroids, which is to draw attention to Colorectal Cancer Alliance, which is a preventable and curable disease that, given more resources in our inner cities and in our impoverished areas, we would be able to solve a lot of that cancer, and be able to free up beds for more significant issues that we can't prevent, or we can't get involved in early on. So
the way you just explained that, you're saying it is 100% preventable, but once you have it, you can't do anything about it.
No, but once you actually have signs, if you're not getting the preventative care, it ends up being pretty far along.
Got it.
Sort of very similar to like other cancers. Whenever they're kind of like silent killers, until you have an actual symptom, you don't really get checked. So having somebody talking about it and making it more normal to talk about weird stuff like colorectal cancer, like who talks about colon cancer, who talks about testicular cancer. Testicular cancer is actually the #1 cancer killer in men 15 to 39 years old, because we don't check our balls. Like, we don't do it.
Yeah.
And it's literally like putting them between your fingers, and then just as you're in the, like, coming out of the shower, you just feel for irregularities. If it doesn't feel like a smooth ball, it's probably wrong, and you should go to the doctor.
Right.
So it's just like stuff like that people kind of smirk about, but at the same time, it's like it can be funny.
Right.
It can be funny, but at the same time, it's like it's super serious too. And if me, as just like a podcaster, or as a person of influence in my community, and I can save one person from getting that disease, or if I can save one person from, or give somebody a platform to talk about it and share their story, so one other person has somebody in their corner that is in a similar situation, that's all I'm about. That's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, good luck with all of these things. And send me some, if you can, send me some resources on what you're doing.
Oh, I definitely will. And I can't wait to see what your podcast is too. And if you want any assistance in setting it up, or whatever you need, a hosting service or lighting or whatever.
Thank you. Well, one question I have is what is your computer recording this?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. I just could do a better job of like getting into this picture here, like you are.
You're working in thirds, buddy. No, listen, on a podcast, really, it's all about the audio.
Yeah,
that's what it's about. So getting a decent microphone is really where it's at. I bought this one. It's what's it called? MAONO, and it's on Amazon. I bought the boom on Amazon. I bought these lights on Amazon. I think the whole entire setup, I mean, probably under $1,000.
Right. Cool.
Right.
All on Amazon.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Ron. Yeah, I'm looking forward to. Hey, was that Twitter space that we met into? Is that a usual thing, or was that just impromptu?
Yeah, it's going to be every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Yeah, every Wednesday. I think at 8:00 is what they said. They also have a Discord channel, the mental health or mental well-being or something like that.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, Lisa, she's actually been on this podcast before. Lisa Marzilli.
Okay.
She's just an absolute rock star. Her and Maria and Elise, they're all amazing. I've been hanging out with them all summer. So
cool, man. Well, what's really cool is that you're 7 weeks ahead, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got a cachet. All right, Brigham, thank you so much. Enjoy
Thanks,
today. Love you.
Great Sunday, man.
Absolutely. Enjoy
See
the
you,
journey, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much for sticking here until the very, very end. If you wouldn't mind just leaving a comment or subscribing or liking the podcast or wherever you downloaded this, maybe it was from YouTube, I would love for that. You take an extra couple seconds to give us some more love. Even though you have listened here to the very, very end, we appreciate that so much. Could you also go over to thestarspodcast.com if you found any of this really interesting and you wanted to dive in a little bit further, or go to our Discord, which is Rocinante Studios NFT. Enjoy the journey. And be sure to check out our Twitter Spaces Tuesday live crew at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. Free NFTs and PO apps